Have you ever just watched a bee buzzing around and wondered, what is actually going on in that tiny little head? Well, it turns out there's this entire hidden world of communication happening right under our noses. It's a language, but not of sounds. It's a language of dance. And the key to unlocking it? Mathematics. So let's dive into this amazing world of bee math. I mean, seriously, what if those little buzzing patterns we see aren't random at all? What if they're actually a super sophisticated form of symbolic geometric communication? That's really the big question we're tackling today, as we look at how scientists are finally cracking the honeybee's code. Okay, so before we can decode this whole thing, we gotta understand the language itself, right? And we're not just talking about random wiggles here. This is a highly structured system for sharing absolutely vital information. So picture this. A scout bee is out and about, and it finds an amazing patch of flowers full of nectar, or maybe even the perfect spot for a new home. It doesn't just keep that info to itself. Nope. It flies right back to the hive and performs a very specific dance. And this performance, it's basically a set of instructions telling all its hive mates exactly where to go. So researchers have been studying this for a while, and they figured out there are basically three main words or types of dances in the bee's vocabulary. And each one sends a very specific message about distance. All right, first up, we have the circle dance. This one's pretty simple. If the food is super close, we're talking less than 10 meters away, the bee just does this simple circular pattern. It's a straightforward message that's basically shouting, hey everyone, the good stuff is right outside. And get this, even in this simple dance, they can pack in more info. The faster the bee dances, the better the quality of the food. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, so what if the food's a little further out? For those middle-of-the-road distances, say between 10 and 100 meters, some bees, specifically the Italian honeybee subspecies, use what's called the sickle dance. It's this sort of crescent-shaped move, and it really acts like a bridge between that simple circle dance and the much more complex one we're about to get into. And finally, for anything over 100 meters away, we get to the main event, the figure-8 dance. You might have heard of this one. It's also called the Waggle Dance. And this is where things get really wild because it is by far the most complex and information-packed dance they do. Okay, so how in the world do we go from just watching a bee do its thing to actually understanding these super precise instructions? Well, that's where a totally different kind of alphabet comes into play, the universal language of mathematics. And this is such a great way to see that translation in action. You see the organic, physical path of the bee's dance, and then you see how researchers take that movement and turn it into a clear mathematical diagram. This is that critical leap, right? From just observing nature to actually analyzing hard data. The main tool they use for this is something called a directed graph, or just digraph for short. The easiest way to think about it is like a treasure map. You've got dots, those are called vertices, which are like locations or points in the dance, and then you have these one-way arrows or edges that show the exact path the bee takes to get from one point to the next. All right, so let's see how this all comes together. By using this graph theory idea, researchers can finally systematically break down the most complex message of all, that incredible waggle dance. So when you take that figure-8 dance and translate it into a diagraph, it becomes super clear that there are two crucial parts to the message. This isn't just a random pattern, it's a code that holds precise data on two things, how far to go and in what direction. First, let's talk distance. The key is that straight line, right in the middle of the figure-8. The longer the bee waggles its little abdomen during that straight run, the farther away the food is. And the conversion rate is it's incredible. It's super direct. 1 second of waggling equals about 1 kilometer of flight. It's that precise. Okay, that's distance. But what about direction? This part is maybe even cooler. The angle of that same waggle run tells the other bees which way to fly. Inside the dark hive, they use straight up as a reference point. That vertical line means the direction of the sun. So if the bee waggles straight up, it's telling them fly directly towards the sun. If it waggles, say, 60 degrees to left of that vertical line, it means fly 60 degrees to the left of where the sun is. It's an amazing solar compass. So just how effective is all this? I mean, does it actually work? Oh yeah, researchers have recorded bees using this exact symbolic language to send their buddies to food sources as far as 9.5 kilometers away. Think about that. That is an incredible distance to communicate with that level of geometric precision.
Okay, so this is obviously an amazing party trick for bees, right? But what's the bigger picture? Why does any of this bee math, actually matter?
Well, the implications are actually pretty profound when you think about it. For one, it proves that we can take a really complex animal language and translate it using the universal language of math. It also gives us a totally new framework for studying animal intelligence itself. But maybe the biggest thing, the most important takeaway, is that it shows us that symbolic communication, using one thing to represent something else, like a dance representing the sun's direction, that's not something that's unique to humans. We're not the only ones who can do it.
And this is all summed up perfectly in a really powerful statement from the researchers themselves. It just puts everything into perspective, really driving home how unique and incredibly sophisticated these tiny creatures are. They are using an abstract, symbolic, and geometrically precise language to navigate their entire world. And it just makes you wonder, doesn't it? I mean, if bees are out there using what is essentially advanced geometry to talk to each other, what other secret languages are happening in nature, all around us, just waiting for us to find the right key to decode them?